Because when you're making a sculpture full of meaning and hope, then the one place you want it is in a public place, and better than that, in a public place which really connects with what the people are doing. And that's why this sculpture, for me to have it linked to part of, to be a gift of the twinning between Abergavenny Town Council and Domboshawa in Zimbabwe, is just such a lovely thing. I feel very honoured that it is here, and we've had such a lovely welcome from the library and the town hall staff. It's been great. I thought I would say a little bit about what it means. Above all, the sculpture is about hope. It's about the struggle to hold on to hope, often in hard and difficult times. And in that, the power, the strength, the need for communities working together. I made this sculpture in 1980, which was when Zimbabwe was born. So it has a long history, and it speaks of that history, because in 1980 was a victory for people who were fighting against a racist, colonialist regime, Rhodesia, which took all the land and left people dispersed in rural poverty and urban poverty. And I want to honour the people who fought in that war. And the sculpture, when you come to look at it, at the base, you will see some of the struggle and the bad things that people did in that war, and the need to stop them doing it. On this side, you'll see a child that has been crushed, really, by what was going on and given no space to live. But you also see figures. Ultimately, it's this figure with their great foot on the ground, holding up their family. But if you look behind, you can see he's also pulling someone off. He's engaged in the fight, in the war there. And what I've tried to do is to show both the faces of that violent struggle, but also this is like a helmet that someone is emerging out of, emerging for peace and to build a new time. And that's why I say the top of the sculpture is about what we all hope for all our children, that they will have health, they will have education, they will live in peace. I want to say also something about the style of the sculpture, because as a sculptor, I started working in Swaziland with my lifelong friend Pitika Ntuli, and we were both very, very influenced by the Makonde and also by the Shona, both absolutely brilliant, inventive, creative sculptures, and you can see the work is very influenced by that, rather than a Western tradition where you would show people separate, perhaps holding hands, perhaps waving. They show people as we feel they are, interwoven, intertwined, interlocking, part of each other. And that is something that's deep, I think, within many African communities, perhaps all. And to say that I was influenced by those great artists is not really deep enough, because my experience of working and teaching in Africa completely transformed who I am. The contact with the warmth, the energy, the resilience of Africans against terrible poverty, really, and injustice. It changed who I was. It broadened me up. And that, I think, again makes it very relevant to twinning, because we are twinning in order to understand each other as human beings across this vast distance, across very different cultures and experiences, but as human beings who are trying for the same thing. And I'm sure people, maybe Lucinda, maybe others of you who have gone through that experience, would you confirm? It does change you, doesn't it? It broadens you up. Your life is never the same again. And our hope with the twinning, one of our hopes, is that people, by understanding the differences in their lives and the commonality of their lives, will really help both sides, because twinning is a two-way process. Twinning is a two-way process. But it's also a process that is desperately needed, because people in Zimbabwe are living in poverty. There is a struggle for basic healthcare, or sometimes any healthcare. There is a struggle for education, which I know the Zimbabweans absolutely love. I mean, they have one of the highest literacy rates in Africa. It's always been something very dear to them. But with no resources, no schools, and one of the things I know Martha with Love Zimbabwe has already achieved is building a library, and putting books in. So I think these are the hopes, the steps, the feelings that I hope are contained in this sculpture and make it such a great place for it. So thank you.
You've just said it all, and for me, I'm really honored. It's amazing. I came to Abergavenny in 2007, and the power of communities is just here. These are the faces I started with, and these are the faces I am still with. You can imagine how it feels living your own community, which Abergavenny is now my community. I can never dream leaving this place because of the way people have received me as a person, but also receiving the message that I came with from Zimbabwe, that message of hope. I knew one day, somewhere, we are going to be shedding tears of joy. And when I look at this culture, it's amazing. I am one of the people, what Harry was saying about people living when the land was distributed, was shared amongst the white and the black. I grew up in a tribal trust land. And when you grow up in that place, there is no hope sometimes apart from education. This is why education is very important to me, because that's what has brought me to be the person I am now. Without education, there's no way I would have come out of that village. This is the reason why, for example, when I took Lucinda, I said, come to my village. I want you to see how I grew up. And I remember David saying, how did you come out of this? When you're born with a kind of poverty, it's tough. And when I look at this sculpture, it reminds me, in Zimbabwe, the Shona people, we've got a stick called the nyami nyami. The nyami nyami stick is also based on hope, but it is based on the interaction, the connectivity between the human beings, the land, animals. So on the stick, we've got fish on the bottom, we've got trees, we've got people. We are interconnected. What is happening now is very scary. The interconnection is diverting, it's leaving us. We're talking of climate change now. We're looking at climate change affecting us here, people who are living in the developed world. I'm very lucky because I'm part of you, I'm part of the developed world. But these people, we've been suffering for hope. Now they've got climate change affecting them. That connectivity is loosening. We need to do something. This is where communities come in. What can we do? How can we help these people? This is why I think we're all excited about all these discussions about climate change. What can we do? These are the ones who are really at the verge of suffering. So I'm so lucky. I'm so happy for everyone who is supporting this, because I think this is going to be powerful. I mean, this is going to be a powerful connection, because we are changing stigmas, we are changing, people's beliefs. When people talk about Zimbabwe, they think just of the bad politics. Let's think about the people. Without you people, we wouldn't have the library in Zimbabwe. We have a community center. We have got a village which welcomes anyone. If you end up in Zimbabwe, if you're stranded, you've got a place to stay. Thank you so much. We need people to join us. Let's not just leave this statue here. Let's think about today as a very important day that we are starting something that's going to be powerful between Abergavenny and Domboshawa. God bless you. Thank you.
Right. Okay, I don't have to say much, and then we'll bring Judah on to do the official unveiling, although it's already been unveiled. The ribbon cutting. Right, yeah, the ribbon cutting, that's it. Thanks for gathering. I think between Martha and Harry, they've said probably everything that I wanted to say. So what I'll do is just very briefly run through the history of the twinning and how that came about. Funny enough, it came as an idea from Nick Ramsey actually came up with the idea, funny enough, about wouldn't it be great if we could do that. And so we sort of thought about that and progressed it, and then in January, just before the COVID struck, which was what, 220 was it? Yeah, 220. We had a meeting with the council. I had a meeting. Martha had to go back to Zimbabwe. Her mother had just died. And the council unanimously agreed to twin the two, the Abergavenny and Domboshawa, at a point in time. And the next step was to be a public meeting, which of course we couldn't do at that stage because of COVID restrictions. And then of course since then really we haven't had much opportunity to progress that at all. So when Harry came up with this, which we've been talking about for some time, Harry, haven't we, about this generous, fantastic generous gift to the council, which I think we should be, the town should be so proud of this, because it's something else. This is something very special for the town. And Harry, wouldn't say no. Harry, once Harry gets his teeth into something, that's it. But it was the right time. There has to be a time when we start to come back and get back on the bus and do this stuff. And now is the time. So it's a little slightly cart before horse in terms of celebrating, because we haven't officially achieved that, but it has been agreed. So the next step is to get a committee together, and we have to be clear that the twinning committee or twinning process is independent from Love Zimbabwe, which is Martha's run charity and our organisations. So it's a totally separate issue, because I think that's transparency is a very, very, very important thing. And so the twinning there'll be a separate, completely new committee that will run the twinning side. So we're looking for volunteers for that, please. And I know the same people get badgered all the time for this sort of stuff, but it's so important to have people that do something, as all trustees of a charity will know. So we really need people to put their hands up and who would be interested in. And our motto in the charity actually is the St David's motto, which is do the little things, yeah? Now it's really important. It's really important. It's about the butterfly fluttering its wings on the other side of the world, affecting things in a different way. That's what this is about, in a way. But the little things, if a lot of people did the little things, we'd be in a lot better place, And I think that's what we want for this, in a way. So anybody who's interested, let me know, and we can take that forward. I think what we want to do is the first public meeting, or the public meeting will be in the new year now, because obviously we're running into Christmas. But I will get on board for that. I want to get a committee together, and then we'll progress from there. Okay, so only leaves me to thank Harry for all his efforts. I think a big round of applause for Harry. That which he wouldn't be here, Martha for all her efforts. And I will just say one thing. Harry was right. It does change your opinions when you spend time in Africa. When you meet somebody like Martha, in a positive way. But when we came here to Abergavenny, Martha was right. There were people here that helped us from the beginning. Martin was the mayor at that time, I remember, and he unequivocally he said, "Yep, I'll help you. I'll do, anything you want. Just give me a ring, and I'll be there." And subsequently, Tess and all the other mayors, actually since and up to Tudor, so the town council has always been behind our efforts and our work. So that's fantastic, because across all parties, I think it's a vital thing. We need to work together, not against each other, and that's what we need to do with this as well. So with that, I shall hand over to Tudor. We've got to hold the ribbon now, Tudor, for you.
Scissors as well.
So, Mark.
Okay, well, it gives me huge pleasure. Mae'n rhoi pleser mawr I torri'r ribbon fan hyn I agor a sculpture hyn. It gives me huge pleasure to cut this ribbon and to officially, as it were, unveil this fantastic sculpture that Harry Iles has made, created so many years ago.
Yeah.
So I cut the ribbon, it's official. You've listened well this afternoon, if I know it hasn't been long, but I just want to say, a huge thank you to Love Zimbabwe and particularly to Harry Iles for having created this sculpture. It is absolutely fantastic, and it has pride of place here in this fantastic hub, and where so many people come, and importantly, so many children come. And we'll ask about this, and it will spark off discussion. And as Mayor now in 21-22, I was at the 5th anniversary of the Town of Sanctuary celebrations a few weeks ago, which was humbling, both for my wife and for myself, hearing some of the stories of the difficulties those people have encountered. And last Friday, I was at the opening of the sort of temporary Muslim community sort of centre or hub in St Michael's Centre in Abergavenny, and there are over 40 people there from this area, many of them Syrians and from other nationalities, but obviously all Muslim, and now they can actually take part in their Jummah prayers on a Friday, which is fantastic. And certainly, listening to what's been said by Harry and others today, education is so important. I'm still involved to a certain degree, but I taught, I worked for example, etc., religious studies and history. And one thing I always tried to break down was this concept of prejudice and discrimination. And it is quite difficult. And certainly as well the thought that, as Martha said, in her community, education is the only way up. I was born and brought up in the Swansea Valley. And I can always remember the logo as I sort of stood or sat in assembly, and in Welsh it's Goref arf ddysg, and in English it means the best weapon is the weapon of learning. And I think that is so important, because it is ignorance that creates discrimination. It is ignorance that creates prejudice. When you don't know somebody and you don't know why they're doing things, people suddenly, for whatever reason, certainly not personally, they sort of turn against it because it's not something that they're familiar with. And I think it's so important in still a fairly rural town like Abergavenny, where some families and children don't go out into the broader world, and where they're in a fairly sort of confined space, and they don't see different cultures and religions and beliefs and so on. And I think it's so important that we've got this. And I look forward now to working with the twinning with Domboshawa in the sort of second part of being the mayor, and I will obviously support that wholeheartedly. And I think, and obviously the town council will as well. It won't just be me, but Wales has got, and you must always remember we are in Wales. We're over Offa's Dyke, we're dros Clawdd Offa. We are in Wales, but I said this at the Syrian evening, Wales has a huge tradition of being a welcoming nation. And certainly, where I was born and brought up, we had people who had come across during the war, Polish community, we had a Jewish community, we had people who'd come across from the Basque region in Spain to work in the colliery there. And there was, in fact, a street called Spanish Row. And everybody mixed in and enjoyed each other's company. And that's what life is all about. Yeah. It's not about saying you're this or you're that or whatever, or I don't like you because you're of a particular nationality or you speak a particular language. We are all human beings. And as such, I am a huge supporter of this twinning. So, diolch yn fawr, thank you very much. I really welcome this sculpture. I hope, and I know, it will create a huge amount of discussion, and particularly amongst kids. They are the future. Okay, diolch yn fawr, thank you very much.